Our Sunday afternoon question and answer program. Please go ahead with your call.
Good afternoon, your time and our time, teacher. Thank you for today's teaching and for the great questions. And I agree with your comments about family radio. And if I may just make a comment before my husband asks his question. My husband and I were regular attendees of Alameda Bible Fellowship and traveled long ways to go there because we just loved the fellowship. We were there until after Mr. Camping passed away. Mr. Camping, a man who was in charge of family radio, who employed many people at family radio who did not agree with his teachings. Mr. Camping was a very loving and caring man. After he passed away, we hung in there. After May 21, we hung in there for as long as we could because we were hoping to move forward. And the one and only teacher who was moving forward was asked not to teach anymore that way. We heard, and I heard firsthand from key people that they did not agree that the church age was over, that they did not agree that the door to salvation was closed. Once this certain teacher was asked to leave after Mr. Camping had passed away, who we dearly loved and fellowshiped with, we knew that family radio had become a church, that those that were churched were going to continue it because they had jobs to secure, a radio station that had been a blessing to many people, and they continued on. We left. It broke our hearts because we dearly loved the people there. And we were scorned because we agreed that the door was closed and that salvation was over. So people must understand there was one key man who was in charge of family radio, who employed many people, and they did not all agree with his teaching. They were in his employ. And when Mr. Camping, the May 21 didn't happen, he was a very tired and beat down man who the media, we saw firsthand what they were doing to him, as well as people right there in the fellowship. Okay? Then he had his stroke, bless his heart, and we stayed there. And then he passed, and we stayed there. We kept hoping that there would be more than this one teacher who was moving forward with the truth, that more would come out. But family radio did not want to go in that direction because of positions, jobs, the radio station itself. So when my husband and I determined that it has definitely become a full-blown church, we never attended anymore. So maybe this will shed some light to people who dearly love family radio and have been blessed by family radio. We all were. You were. Mr. Daniels was. Many people were. But like the church age, it ended. And we just hung in there long enough to see. We were hungry to be fed. We wanted to move forward. And we moved forward with a teacher that was asked not to teach in his way anymore. And so I just wanted to say that. Maybe that will bring some clarity. And I don't mind telling you that that teacher was Gunter von Haranga, who still is teaching. And we love your teaching. It is in agreement. We know there's still so much in the Word of God that we still have yet to discover. But you have been on the right track. The torch was handed to you, Chris, and to people like Gunter, and we're thankful. Now, my husband has a question for you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chris. I would like to have you take a look at Ephesians 5. Let's see, maybe 10 through 12, please.
Okay, Ephesians 5, beginning in verse 10, says, proving what is acceptable unto the Lord, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. For it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret.
I think what I'm understanding here is that now is what Family Radio has become, having no fellowship with them, unfruitful works. Can you comment?
Well, you know, on one hand, I don't like naming names or mentioning ministries, but it's because that God used Family Radio to the degree that He did, and it was so much a blessing for the people of God for so long that I think it's necessary to allow people to discuss these things and for me to respond. We're not going to do this all the time, I think, but just to know that it is nothing personal. It is not like we have anything against Family Radio. We would desire, I would personally desire, I would love it if tomorrow they said, you know what, we're going the wrong way. We're getting into fluff, into superficial things. We're trying to attract people. We're getting upbeat in these things where we are denying these important truths of the Bible, and we have to turn around and get this and start doing things God's way again. I would strongly want Family Radio because they could reach a great many people. However, the direction they're going, it's not that direction. It's away from the truth. It is toward embracing the churches. I would not say Family Radio is a church, because a church has very specific guidelines, and the Bible teaches us that a church consists of church authority and baptism and Lord's table and discipline and things like that. So Family Radio is not a church. It is a ministry outside of the church that is moving towards the churches to embrace them, whereas God has commanded that the church age is over and that the people of God are to have nothing to do with the church in any way. And we're certainly not to air church teachings and church personalities that would cause listeners to fall, because the people listening, they are thinking, well, I'm hearing it on Family Radio. There's no problem. There's no problem with listening to a pastor, with listening to these things, and they're getting the wrong idea. It's completely opposite what Mr. Camping taught for years and years leading up to May 21, 2011. And so these things are they're wrong teachings. They're erroneous. They're false doctrines. They're rebellion. Yes. Excuse me. Were you trying to say something? Please go ahead. Hello?
No. We agree with you, Chris.
Oh, okay. Well, yes. Here now, as far as fellowship, you were mentioning Alameda Fellowship, and I don't really know as much about that, so I can't comment on that. But we are not to fellowship with, especially, we tend to forget. We tend to forget. But remember, the character of the Great Tribulation was putting down the high places. It was moving on from false teaching that had plagued the churches for centuries over the course of the entire church age. It was God perfecting His Word. It was bringing to light doctrines that brought correction. And so the character of the Great Tribulation was to send forth a pure gospel in which God would save that great multitude outside of the churches and congregations. And there was constant introspection. Mr. Camping got a team of people to look at Family Radio's music library to refine it, to find high places in the music. They were purifying that. And all the things on the air, from the little 1 moment or 1 minute spots to the longer teachings. They were correcting them. They were getting rid of these things. And now it's all back. It's all back and worse than ever. And so, some people, they try to hold up Mr. Camping after his stroke as though he was repentant of all these things and he was all for all the changes. Well, come on. Now that's very deceitful, extremely deceitful. Yeah. Because after May 21, 2011, before his stroke, Mr. Camping's the one who taught about the feeding of sheep, and he's the one who said the righteous are righteous still, and the filthy still. He's the one who told Family Radio's print presses to stop printing "Does God Love You" tracts. He's the one who said the evangelization part is over, and now we're to feed the sheep, because all to be saved were saved. He, in just 2 or 3 weeks, God opened up His understanding to those things that have proved true as we have continued to check them out, and they've grown. We've been able to find collaborating truth because they are true, and support from the Bible. And so when he was healthy, the direction was clear. The direction, he wasn't saying no man knows the day or hour when, before his stroke, after his stroke, then and God used that. I firmly believe God used that because this is a time of severe testing for all the people of God, for all those that identified with the true gospel, and so the Lord has allowed these things. Yeah. But at this time, we're going to have to take a short break for just a couple of minutes before we come back to our next person on the phone.